This country can't afford to have another 4 years of that kind of experience.
Wow. So a recent poll shows 70% of you think this election has brought out the worst in people. That's 7 of 10.
So how can you talk to family and friends about politics without getting into a bitter debate and keep it civil around the dinner table? Let's bring in the Archbishop of New York, Timothy Cardinal Dolan. Good morning.
How are you?
It's got to be an emergency to bring you in for this.
I love being with you all.
It's great to see you.
Being with you. Please.
Thanks for letting me sit next to you.
She gave you a big hug to walk in. I didn't have a choice.
I'm not I love this man, and we need you. America needs you.
Thank you. Well, we do need some healing, and we need some unity and reconciliation. Whether I'm the man to bring it, I don't know. I should try.
I think God's called you into our studio today to give us
But the question you asked is, I hear it everywhere. I go around listening to a lot of people. Look, I don't know if you know this or not, I'm a student of American history. I was able to get my degree in that. So I know that bitter, fractious, contentious elections have been part of the American experiment. We know that's nothing new. This one does seem to raise the mercury quite a bit, doesn't it? And I think what bothers a lot of people is the personal attacks. I didn't watch the debate. I watched the Mets game. Okay, much better.
You were the woman.
But what I hear people say is they didn't talk about issues. They attacked one another on some things that everybody is tired about, all right? Did we hear him talk about substantial revival of the economy? Did we hear them talk about substance in foreign policy? Did we hear him talk about some of the burning issues, like the culture of life, like immigrants? I don't think we heard that much, and people are yearning for that. That, I think, Ainsley, to answer your question, at our kitchen tables, what do parents tell their kids? I'd like to think they tell their kids, you can disagree heartily on the issues, never attack a person, never question motives. I'd like to think maybe this will lead in a revival of that civility. I don't know.
Right, but there's so much at stake, and so they're pulling out all the stops. Now, let's fast forward a month or two, and of course it would be after the election, if we're talking about Thanksgiving, but when you're around the kitchen table with your family, invariably, that uncle right over there voted for somebody I didn't vote for. How do you handle that? Because after a couple of ciders or whatever, people...
Hey, are you a member of my family or what? We do that too.
People lose the inhibition and then they just let it all hang out.
You know, one of the things I think we ought to do is why should we be embarrassed that there's political disagreement? That's a tribute to the vitality of American democracy, no? That how many countries in the world could actually sit around a table
so you're okay with
retribution? I don't mind good, hearty, hot debate and controversy, as long as it doesn't, as long as it's not reduced to attacks on people.
7% of Americans say they've lost a friendship because of this political process.
Isn't that we should lose friendships over important things like the baseball teams and all.
Exactly.
Not about politics.
Right. Should be Red Sox, Yankees.
Yes, there you go. You know, nothing is worth losing a friend over. Nothing is worth damaging charity and civility. That's what we have to. That's what we have to think about.
So the bottom line is we can disagree, but we still need to love each other.
There you got it. Don't you think?
Sure. Well, I almost said Ambassador Cardinal. Here's the other thing, is we're talking about race relations nonstop, maybe for the first time in my lifetime. We didn't talk about much in the 80s and the 90s, turn of the century. We're talking about different issues. Now race is everywhere, from law enforcement to society. People sitting down can't decide whether America's the right country or not. We had our New York City Council, half of them sit down and not take the Pledge of Allegiance. Where do you go with that?
Well, for one thing, once again, I'm with you. I had thought, those of us who lived through the 60s thought maybe that's when it all came to a peak, and maybe that's behind us, especially with the election of an African-American president. Now it's front and center again. What are we going to do? Are we going to get depressed and discouraged? Or are we going to say, hey, thank God we've got a robust civic society where we can talk about painful issues and where things that need to be discussed and debated courteously in the public square, we can do that. I'm with you, though, when that gets mean, when that gets violent, and when that begins to take on what would you say, attacks on things we cherish, like the national anthem or like our patriotic.
Does it bother you?
It does. It
So
does.
when you take a
Now,
knee
look,
on the national anthem, it bothers you.
Look, I'm in a sacred enterprise where ritual and symbols are very important. They remind us of the divine. And so do our patriotic rituals. And I worry that if we begin to question those and chip away at them, well, then the common ground that we got that allows for civility and compassionate public discourse, that's going to erode even further, and we don't need
So
that.
if Colin Kaepernick were here on the couch with us today, what would you say to him?
I'd say, nice to meet you. I would share your passion for this. Can we talk about this? Can I pray with you about it? But could I encourage you, maybe, for something that is so sacred to this country? We need your witness more than ever to unite us and bring us together, not to further divide us.
One of the October rituals here in New York City is the annual Al Smith dinner.
I'm practicing sitting between two.
That's right. Coming up on October the 20th, you will have on one side Hillary Clinton and on the other side Donald Trump. I remember 4 years ago, Mitt Romney and Barack Obama were both hilarious.
They were, yeah, they were. And that, of course, is the purpose of the evening. You know the tradition of the Al Smith dinner. You know who Al Smith is, right? He was the first Catholic to run for president in 1928. Trounced by Herbert Hoover. Historians would say probably because of anti-Catholic bigotry. A tremendously successful governor of New York State, and they called him the Happy Warrior. And he gave us, even in defeat, he gave us a great example of what we were just talking about. A sense of humor, a joy, trying to bring people together, trying to find the common ground. So one of my predecessors, Francis Cardinal Spellman, said after Governor Smith died, why don't we start an annual dinner where we bring politicians together in a real climate of amity? And every 4 years, that is hyped up when the two candidates come together. Except for the debates, it's the only time in the political season that the two candidaets come together at the Al Smith dinner, sponsored by the Archdiocese of New York.
Hosted by his great-grandson?
Al Smith III would be the host, and he's the chairman of the Al Smith board. The Al Smith Foundation, which is a tremendous supporter of Catholic charities, and especially women and children, following Governor Smith. Well, it's a great, a traditional title for a priest, and they especially give it to the high priest in Rome, the Pope, is a pontifex, a bridge builder. We're supposed to build bridges, most of all between humanity and divinity. But on that day, I kind of feel like a bridge because I'll be sitting between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, usually people that don't get along. But on that evening, we pray there's a sense of joy, self-deprecating humor, and bringing out what's best in America.
Well, let me ask you, do these guys, and now this case a woman, will they sometimes pull you aside and go, listen, I'm having a little bit of a problem here, or pray for me? Do they ever pull you aside and ask for advice?
I've only been through one of these, the last one in 2012 when it was Barack Obama and Governor Romney. Yeah, we'd have a little time together, and I'm always moved by the political candidates who admit they need prayer, who will ask for prayers, who will sometimes say this has been a tough season. Yeah.
Are you expecting that this year?
I don't know. I'm ready for it. I'll have a couple martinis beforehand.
Absolutely, because we know that Donald Trump loves the Bible, so you'll have a lot to discuss.
So we hear.
Absolutely.
Right.
So how do you feel about preachers pushing a candidate from the pulpit?
They're not allowed to do that, are they?
Well, I mean, some ministers are.
We Catholics aren't. We have always taken seriously the fact that we can preach issues. We can talk about principles
like
and
abortion.
values. You got it. We can talk about issues and the principles and ethics and morality that guide us. We should stay away from supporting candidates, all right? So there's a big difference.
Would you like to see everybody have that? Would you like to see
so. I don't know why we Catholics take that, what seems to be a principle that America reverences, namely that the altar should stay away from an overt intrusion into politics. We take that seriously. Other religions seem to get away with it. I don't know why. So my priests, myself, oh boy, will we talk about virtue? Will we talk about morality? Will we talk about issues? we shy from getting partisan. You know the difference. Political is a noble thing. You talk about the guiding vision and virtues of our country. Partisanship means you get particularly supportive of a given candidate or a given party. That we shy away from. Who was the great one on this? John Paul II. Okay, so boy, you talk about in the widest, most noble way, a political pope who spoke about virtues, who spoke about the guiding principles of faith and freedom and the dignity of the human person.
But famously worked with politicians.
But would work with anybody, whether they be to the left or the right.
I was under the impression that I thought that preachers were not allowed to, they're allowed to talk about the issues, but not endorse a candidate at the pulpit because they would lose their tax exemption if they did that. And I think legally, exactly.
I've heard that too. I don't know if that's accurate.
Why don't you try it? Pick somebody and see if there's any blowback. Right?
Don't get my friend in trouble. No, don't do that. Do not listen to Brian.
Cardinal, I mentioned abortion because as a faithful Catholic, I hear that a lot on Sundays, but I also hear a lot about immigrants.
Right.
And those who are in the country and undocumented, and how we should be very helpful to them because, you know, they're people too.
Sure. Here we got it, Steve. Thanks for asking. Again, what's the guiding overarching principle here? The dignity of the human person and the sacredness of human life, okay? Now, wherever that's attacked, you know the church is going to stand up and say, be careful. Right. We are really less than the creature that God intended us to be. And there are different ways that that's under attack. For us as Catholics, we feel one of the most blatant ways that's under attack is when the very life of the most innocent, fragile creature, the baby in the womb, is under attack. So we feel extraordinarily strong about that. That doesn't mean that's the only issue. You brought one up, Steve, as far as the immigrant. The immigrant is made in the image and likeness of God. He or she demands dignity and respect. Does that mean we can't have very, very careful, strong protection of borders? No, that's a right, too. That's a human right that we need to protect. The balance comes in doing that without getting spiteful or destructive of the dignity of the human person.
So you're not a bad Catholic if you say, I'm a little concerned that the enemy, in this case would be ISIS, Al-Qaeda, is trying to infiltrate into
you would not be a bad Catholic at all. You'd say, I am so proud of our American tradition, which, by the way, is consonant with the Jewish-Christian tradition of welcoming the refugee. I'm so proud of that I'm worried that's being compromised by perhaps an excessively fluid policy
because there's
that is
evil
not
in the world.
Scrupulous enough. So we have to protect our country is also the protection of the dignity of the human person and the sacredness. So what do you got? You got sometimes conflicting values. You got a balance. So you know what the great saints and scholars say is the greatest virtue that we need at this time of the year? Prudence. Right. Prudence, which is pretty much asking God for right judgment. Right. Because we got tough decisions to make.
And the greatest saint ever? Drew Brees?
The greatest saint ever?
It has to be Drew Brees.
Drew Brees.
For the Saints, New Orleans Saints.
You have got, I was going to say Stan Musial, but you...
Absolutely.
What about, I hear a lot from people in the community just coming up to me and saying they're concerned for the direction of the country.
I am too.
All right, why? What do we do about that?
You know what now you're not going to be surprised. Different people are going to, you have people on this couch that are going to give you different answers. My answer should surprise no one. I think we're in trouble because we've forgotten God. All right, God is no longer part of the equation. Belief in God is ridiculed. Religion is being reduced to superstition. And religion, which by its definition is to accent everything that's good and noble and sacred in the human person and the human enterprise, is now being, in the minds of some, is being reduced to an act of hate and violence. And that's terrible when we eliminate God from the public square. And that's part of when you've got the father of our country say that democracy cannot flourish without a strong religious base, as George Washington said, that's under attack now.
Sure. Cardinal, tell us a little bit about the Pilgrimage of Mercy.
Oh, thanks for asking. You know this is a year of mercy. Now, look, every day, every second is one of mercy in the eyes of God. Pope Francis is shrewd. He's a good teacher. He's a good Jesuit. He says, yeah, but every once in a while we need good reminders because we're tempted to forget it, like mercy. So he's declared a year of mercy. One of the things you do in a year of mercy is make a pilgrimage. The idea of pilgrimage is important to Jews, Muslims, and Christians, okay? You go somewhere on a journey to remind us of the journey of life, the journey back to heaven. A lot of people come to St. Patrick's Cathedral. We here in the Archdiocese are going to go down to the shrine of our Immaculate Mother Mary in Washington, D.C., the National Shrine. We love to go to the home of our mother, Okay, those are the most, for us as Catholics, those are the most popular shrines in the world. Lourdes, Fatima, Knock, Guadalupe. Here in the United States, we got the Shrine of the Immaculate Conception in Washington. So I'm going to have a couple hundred pilgrims. Brooklyn had some. Rockville Center had some. Newark across the Hudson had some.
And where are you heading?
October 15th.
We're going October 15th. We're going to take busloads of people down for prayer, camaraderie, the Mass, the Sacrament of Penance. You name it. You're welcome.
God bless you.
Thank you.
So
we
much
need
for
it,
being
don't
here.
we? Thanks for having me on.
Great to see you.
13 minutes after the hour, back with this story. The FBI's top man grilled again on Capitol Hill. James Comey under fire for granting immunity to Hillary Clinton's aides during the investigation into her private email server. Well, Comey now admitting classified info was found on Cheryl Mills' laptop, which she turned over to the FBI in exchange for protection.
I think there were some emails still on the computer that were recovered that were classified, is my recollection. Is that a crime? No, it's certainly something, without knowing more, you couldn't conclude whether it was a crime. You'd have to know what were the circumstances, what was the intention around that.
House Oversight Committee Chair Jason Chaffetz telling our Megyn Kelly Americans deserve the truth.
Why is it that everybody's pleading the fifth and having to get immunity deals? I want Hillary Clinton to look in the camera and tell people there's immunity, they're not going to prosecute. Tell Congress and tell the American people the truth. Right now, we can't get to that truth.
The FBI refusing Congress's call to reopen the Clinton criminal investigation. And Democratic Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee hardly remaining impartial during that hearing. You can see her wearing a gold Hillary Clinton campaign pin as Comey is grilled. Well, she certainly raised a lot of eyebrows, but the House has no rules against members wearing candidates' pins. On that note, over to you, Heather.
Thank you, Abby. Congress says no to President Obama overriding a veto for the first time in his presidency of a bill allowing families of 9/11 victims to sue Saudi Arabia for alleged terror ties. The president now reacting, and he's not pleased.
Well, I think it was a mistake. Our men and women in uniform around the world could potentially start seeing ourselves subject to reciprocal loss. It's a dangerous precedent, and it's an example of why sometimes you have to do what's hard. And frankly, I wish Congress here had done what's hard.
So why would he want this bill vetoed in the first place? Fox News contributor Jillian Turner she served in the White House National Security Council and under Presidents George W. Bush and Obama, and she joins us now to react. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Heather. It's great to be here.
So we heard President Obama say that it was a mistake and that they should have done something that's hard to do because this is an emotional issue.
That's right. And what he means by that is, and he's right, is that Congress should have actually taken the step that was harder politically here. Look, this is a very complicated issue, but what it boils down to is that, of course, everybody wants the families of 9/11 victims to be able to seek justice in the international system. The problem with this specific piece of legislation is that further down the road, it's actually going to make Americans more vulnerable.
And how will it do that? Because it's too broad?
Yes, and there's reciprocity built into this legislation. So what we have now is a concept called sovereign immunity that tells us that sovereign nations cannot sue other nations for breaching the law. This legislation flips that on its head. So 9/11 families of victims are able to sue the Saudi government today, but tomorrow the Saudis and other countries around the world are going to be able to sue the United States, and that's very dangerous.
So why not specify the wording such that it's much narrower?
It's a great question. I think that they're going to try and do that after the bill is passed. I think what's happening is that this was very rushed. Congress was not prepared for this. They thought they were going to pass it by a congressional resolution, and this vote kind of took everybody by surprise. It happened very quickly, and a lot of the members who voted for it don't even know what they're voting for.
People are hearing you say that, and then we're thinking, it's been 15 years.
Of course, and that's where the emotion here comes in. As Americans, as patriots, people who love this nation, and we're traumatized by 9/11, we want those families to have compensation. We want them to seek justice. This was just not the best vehicle, if that makes sense.
So what happens next for those families? Saudis?
What happens is now that this is going to be a law, they're going to be able to file a class action lawsuit against the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The other thing that's damaging here from a national security perspective, it's really going to weaken our relationship, our bilateral relationship with the Saudis, which is, feel what you may about the regime, they're still an important defense partner in the region.
In the Middle East. And so far, I believe they've not had a response yet, so it'll be interesting.
No official response yet, but they're working all the Washington channels really hard this week.
Yeah, all right. Jillian, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Heather.
All right, and stay tuned because you'll be on Fox and Friends a little later.
Yep, 7:15.
Well, still to come here, though, the time is now 17 minutes after 5 here on the East Coast. And a major health alert this morning. What is inside your medicine cabinet that could cause some serious heart problems? And move over, Daryl Hammond.
Mr. Trump is the real-life inspiration for Iron Man.
Oh, no, the news star. Where do you see this playing Donald Trump on Saturday Night Live?
The vice presidential candidates take center stage, representing their running mates, proving themselves on the biggest stage in politics. Governor Mike Pence.
Democrats are about to anoint someone who represents everything this country is tired of.
Senator Tim Kaine.
The Trump campaign just feels like Trump's next big con.
It's the contest that could sway America's votes. Bret Baier and Megyn Kelly anchor powerful coverage of the vice presidential debate this Tuesday, starting at 9 p.m. Eastern on Fox News Channel.
What a beautiful song. Rising like a skyscraper. Plenty of those in New York City, and the sun will be rising pretty soon across the country. Thank you so much for joining Fox and Friends. First, taking a look at your health now. It is probably in your medicine cabinet right now, and it could kill you. A new study shows over-the-counter painkillers like ibuprofen can raise your risk of heart failure by nearly 20%. Researchers still have not determined the cause and effect. Scientists are warning patients to take the lowest effective doses and limit the length of time that you're using that medication.
Well, the bitter back and forth between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton is bringing out the worst in voters. That is according to a new poll finding 70% of people say the presidential election has brought out the worst in themselves and others. Some not only unfriending people on Facebook, but also in real life. And if you're a Clinton supporter, you're more likely to lose a friend than if you're a Trump supporter.
That's interesting. Sad. Yes.
Losing friends.
Well, now to a Fox News alert for you. First, exploding cell phones and now washing machines. Some brand new trouble for Samsung.
Cheryl Casoni from our sister network Fox Business here with what you need to know. Cheryl, you're just not safe today, are you?
I know. I've got another recall to tell you about, and this is Samsung washing machines, the front-loading versions. Turns out that some customers are reporting that these machines are basically exploding in their homes. One Texas woman saying that it blew out a wall in her garage. And the Consumer Product Safety Commission saying any Samsung front-loading washer from March 2011 to April 2016 could be a hazard, and there are lawsuits in particular in Texas, Georgia, and Indiana after those reports. And again, as you just mentioned, this comes on the heels of those Samsung 7 Galaxy Notes. That was 2.5 million devices that Samsung is having to recall. So it's been a bad month for Samsung.
Yeah,
I'd say so.
Bad timing for sure. No, you're a runner. I know you as well, Cheryl. Do either one of you have an Apple Watch? Because you could be getting one, what, how?
No, if it's free, I'll take it.
Yeah.
It's real. Actually, well, Heather, you probably know this. I've got my little Garmin right here, but these things are great. They track your heart rate. They track calories burned, where you're going. Apple Watch does basically the same thing that the Garmin I'm wearing does. But does your health insurance company need to have all of that data? Well, if Aetna is your insurance provider, now they're saying that they will actually subsidize the cost of an Apple Watch either through the company can cover the cost of the watch for the employee, or individual insurance policyholders can also get a subsidized Apple Watch. The thinking is that Aetna wants to connect its programs to your watch. Just remember, consider how much of your personal data, like, the 3,000 calorie dinner you had, do you want that to be do you want them to know? I'm just kidding, but it is kind of a question mark out there.
But it's into that.
The 3,000 calorie dinner.
Yeah. Don't know about you. That sounds kind of good, though. All right. Free coffee. It is National Coffee Day. So where can we find that?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a few chains that are having specials. Let's first start with Dunkin' Donuts. You can get a medium coffee for 66 cents at any Dunkin' Donuts location. That is today. Krispy Kreme, really good offer. offer. You can get a coffee for free and one glazed donut for free. And then Starbucks is doing something a little bit different. Here's their statement. They're saying to celebrate National Coffee Day, Starbucks will donate a coffee tree for every brewed cup of Mexico Chiapas coffee that you buy. So basically, if you buy a cup of their Mexico Chiapas coffee today, they will donate a coffee tree. So nothing free at Starbucks.
I think I might stick with Krispy Kreme.
Because that's where you get the donut.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll go for the donut.
You could never underestimate the power of a donut. So coming up at 5:45, back on that, you were talking about the Apple Watches. Well, Apple logs your iMessage contacts, but it may be sharing them with police, which goes against the philosophy of Apple. We're going to talk about it and how you can protect yourself coming up.
Interesting. So everything out there.
Thanks, Cheryl. You bet.
Thanks. Well, the time now is 25 minutes after the top of the hour, and a brand new twist to tell you about in a mystery at sea. The man rescued after 8 days, accused of murder.
And we all remember this gaffe by Libertarian candidate Gary Johnson.
What would you do if you were elected? About Aleppo. About Aleppo. And what is Aleppo?
Oh boy, well, he just committed another political faux pas.
It is Thursday, September 29th, and this is a Fox News alert. New protests against police overnight. Some even hit by bottles, glass shattering. The demonstrators' new demands after the shooting death of an unarmed man.
Then President Obama grilled by a Gold Star mom who lost her son to radical Islamic terrorists.
Why do you still refuse to use the term Islamic terrorist?
You won't believe how he responds.
And oh dear, the animal who just won't quit after a driver accidentally hits it. Fox and Friends First continues right now.
Good morning to you. You are watching Fox and Friends First on this Thursday morning. I'm Abby Huntsman.
And I'm Heather Childers. It is half past the top of the hour. Thanks for joining us. Right to that Fox News alert for you, though. Overnight, bottles hurled at police officers and intersections shut down by protesters outside of San Diego. Others yelling for them to stop. As you can see, glass bottles flying through the air in the top of the left corner of your screen. See that?
And the protesters, they're outraged over the killing of Alfred Olongo. This photo released by the El Cajon Police Department shows a 38-year-old holding a vape smoking device and what they call a shooting stance. Officers shot him after his sister called 911 to report him acting erratically. Well, the officers involved, both 21-year veterans of the force, are now on leave.
Well, police say that the main suspect in a pair of Dallas murders is an illegal who had already been deported back to Mexico 3 times. Juan Rios was arrested yesterday in a standoff with officers who say that he was using a fake name. He's wanted for killing a driver on a Dallas interstate and a man at a gas station. His motive is still unclear. Well, some disturbing new details emerging about a Vermont man who survived a week at sea. Police say that he was a suspect in his grandfather's unsolved murder. Nathan Carman was the last person to see his grandpa alive before he was found fatally shot at his home back in 2013. But Carman was never charged, and now his mother is presumed dead as well after their boat capsized during a fishing trip off the Rhode Island coast.
And I just want to thank the public for their prayers and for their continuing prayers for my mother.
The police are now questioning whether that boat was seaworthy. Carman claims that it was. Investigators are now combing through his Vermont home looking for evidence related to the ill-fated fishing trip.
Well, hundreds of more U.S. troops are being sent to Iraq. President Obama ordering the move to help combat ISIS. The total number of U.S. troops in Iraq will now exceed 5,000. The administration maintains that the U.S. forces won't take part in combat, but only advising roles. And it marks the 11th troop increase in Iraq since June of 2014.
And President Obama sparking fresh controversy this morning over the term radical Islam. The president telling a Gold Star mom that the phrase can make radicals feel under attack. Jackie Ibanez joins us now with the outrage. Good morning, Jackie. So what's the problem with making them feel like they're under attack?
Yeah, well, good morning, Heather. It was billed as President Obama's farewell to the troops. Instead, the president coming face to face with how he describes the enemy here at home. Now, the war of words over Islamic terrorism front and center at the military-style town hall at Fort Lee. A mother of a fallen soldier bluntly asked President Obama why he refuses to acknowledge the root cause of terrorism.
Why do you still refuse to use the term Islamic terrorist?
The truth of the matter is that this is an issue that has been sort of manufactured, because there is no doubt, and I've said repeatedly, that where we see terrorist organizations like Al-Qaeda or ISIL, they have perverted and distorted and tried to claim the mantle of Islam for an excuse for basically barbarism and death.
A very legitimate question from her. Hochin's 19-year-old son, Aaron Gautier, was killed in Baghdad in 2007 by radical Islamic terrorists. The president taking it a step further, warning Americans the term used by Republicans was endangering the country, referring specifically to, quote, people aspiring to become president. Several political opponents, including Donald Trump, have criticized President Obama as being soft on terrorism for refusing to use the term. We've heard it a lot. Heather, Abby?
Certainly have. We're going to get some more comments on that. Want to know what people at home think. Yep. So let's keep talking about the president's comments. What message is he sending? Log on to Fox & Friends' first Facebook page right after the show for a live debate. Use this hashtag, Keep Talking.
Yep, want to hear from you. And turning now to the race for the White House, and the candidates are hot on the trail with just 40 days now until the election. Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton are riding the debate momentum as they hit the battleground states. Garrett Tenney is live in Washington with Donald Trump's brand new line of attacks. Garrett, it is finally the home stretch. Wow.
It absolutely is, Abby. And as we all know, nothing is official until it's on Twitter. So this new line of attack, in true Trump fashion, has a hashtag, Follow the Money. Yesterday, at a series of rallies in Iowa and Wisconsin, Trump renewed his criticism of Hillary Clinton as a corrupt politician who is bought and paid for by Wall Street and big-time donors to the Clinton Foundation.
How many more Clinton scandals can this country take? One after another after another. You know the story, folks. You've seen it for years and years, and we can't take another 4 years of Barack Obama, and we can't take another 4 years of crooked Hillary Clinton. You can't do it.
And for her part, Hillary Clinton is riding the wave after her strong debate performance, and she's hoping to build support among young voters, a key voting bloc that has not shown much enthusiasm for the Democratic nominee. Clinton's strategy to do that includes surrogates like Bernie Sanders, who millennials overwhelmingly supported during the primary contest. And yesterday in New Hampshire, the pair touted Clinton's plan for debt-free college.
It is great being here on the stage at UNH with my friend Bernie Sanders, one of the most passionate champions for equality and justice that I have ever seen, and someone who I am looking forward to working with to get the kind of agenda through our Congress that will begin to make our country stronger.
Now, both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are continuing to hit the swing states hard in these last 40 days. Today, Clinton will be in Iowa trying to close in on Trump's 5-point lead there. Donald Trump will be in New Hampshire, where Clinton is currently ahead. Abby and Heather?
Yeah, it all comes down to those important states.
Yeah, I like that phrase that you used at the beginning. It's not true until it's on Twitter.
And it's a good point.
Everything.
Everything. Garrett, good to see you. Thanks.
Thanks.
Take care.
Well, do you remember this gaffe from Libertarian presidential candidate Gary Johnson?
What would you do if you were elected? About Aleppo. About Aleppo. And what is Aleppo?
Oh, well, yeah, he just had another one. Johnson unable to name a foreign leader that he respects.
Canada, Mexico, Europe, over there, Asia, South America, Africa, name a foreign leader that you respect.
I guess I'm having an Aleppo moment in the former president
But I'm
of
giving
Mexico.
you the whole world.
I know.
Anybody in the world you like. Anybody. Pick any leader.
The former president of Mexico.
Which one?
I'm having a brain.
Well, name anybody.
The Ox.
Oh, well, critics saying that these instances show Johnson's lack of foreign policy experience.
Cringeworthy, isn't it?
Yes.
Yikes. All right, well, Donald Trump getting a huge makeover on Saturday Night Live. So actor Alec Baldwin, he is now taking over the Trump impression role on SNL. Baldwin and Kate McKinnon, who plays Hillary Clinton, will go head-to-head in the season premiere this weekend. NBC is hoping to capitalize on a record-shattering presidential debate earlier this week. Kate McKinnon is so good.
She won
at Hillary
Emmy.
Clinton.
Yeah.
She's so good.
It's gonna be
Can't wait for
great.
that.
Well, the time now is about 20 minutes until the top of the hour, and ballots behind bars, the brand new bill letting felons vote from their jail cells.
And all eyes on your iMessages. What we just learned about Apple monitoring your contacts and what you can do to protect yourself.
But first, a look at your weather across the country today. Feels like fall. Lots of green.
We're back now with a Fox Business Alert. iPhone lovers beware. Apple is tracking all of your text messages, and you will not believe why. Cheryl Cosoni from our sister network, Fox Business, is here to explain. Cheryl, is this true?
Yeah, Abby, it is. New documents show that Apple may be watching your messages, logging it, and then sharing that information with authorities. Apple's promise to customers is that iMessage conversations are safe and only for you and your friends. But this new report says your messages are leaving behind a trail that can be turned over to police if need be. Things like who you were likely to contact, the date, the time of your messages, and the IP address of your phone. Now, the problem is that Apple has always claimed that they don't store data related to customers' location, among other things, but Apple is compelled to turn over information if government lawyers ask for it in a specific way, and that's got privacy experts concerned. According to Apple in a statement just released, quote, when law enforcement presents us with a valid subpoena or court order, we provide the requested information if it is in our possession, end quote. But on the company's website, they say, quote, we build powerful safeguards into our operating systems, our apps, and the devices themselves. The things you rely on every day should keep your personal information safe. So, how do you ensure that your messages stay private? Well, if you don't want your phone number or your Apple ID logged on their servers, experts say create a burner Apple ID that you only use with iMessage, and then you can change that as often as you can. You could also use, there's an alternate texting app, there's one called Signal that's very popular. So there's ways to kind of get around this. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Cheryl. Well, some more potential election fraud before the voting even begins. Hackers have reportedly targeted voter databases in 10 states, not just in Illinois and Arizona, which we already knew about. Russia is believed to be behind the hack attacks. 18 states have accepted an offer from the Department of Homeland Security to help improve their cybersecurity systems. Hopefully that'll work. And some more votes coming from behind bars in November. The governor of California, Jerry Brown, signing a bill to let thousands of felons vote from their jail cells. He says allowing convicts to cast a ballot will help speed up their transition back into society. Now, the California Sheriff's Association strongly against it, saying that there's have to be consequences for actions.
Well, another unpatriotic act. 8 New York City Council members refusing to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, joining the wave of national demonstrations against police. Those seated calling their actions patriotic. Well, it also comes after one of the council members started getting death threats for coming out in support of NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick.
And right now, let's check in with Brian Kilmeade to see what is coming up on Fox and Friends. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning to both of you. And I know you're just about done. We have 3 hours coming your way. And one of the segments that I think you'll really look forward to is coming up in the first hour. We have an interview with Pastor Robert Jeffress. He's going to be going to the Trump Tower. He is just the latest religious leader to find their way into the Trump camp. Will he be won over like Jerry Falwell Jr. and perhaps even Tony Perkins? we'll talk about religion and politics on our show if you watch with the audio up.
Well, we definitely, a lot of religious leaders seem to be getting involved this election cycle. It's really interesting.
Yeah, you know what? Trump needs them, and so does Hillary Clinton.
Yep.
Let's see who gets them.
One thing you never talk about, though, at the dinner table, though, is religion and politics. But it's breakfast time.
It's so hard to get even dinner together and want people together at one time. We'll talk about anything. Just get the people there.
Yeah.
We'll be there, Brian. We'll see you soon.
All right.
Thank you. And we'll be right back. See you soon. And welcome back to Fox and Friends First, taking aim at students' right to free speech. This is Appalachian State University in North Carolina, and they're banning chalking after students wrote pro-Trump messages around campus. Now, students complained that the drawings unfairly targeted minorities and illegal immigrants, and now only recognized student organizations may create chalk drawings to promote upcoming events. And go ahead and snap a picture of your ballot. A state law banning voters from posting pictures of them online just ruled unconstitutional. A federal appeals court says that it suppresses political speech. And the New Hampshire law was meant to prevent lawmakers what they called voter bullying.
Director Tim Burton is taking a New York Times best-selling novel to the big screen.
He's invisible. Of course. We're what's known in common parlance as peculiar.
Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children hits the big screen this weekend. So let's step into the Fox Light with Fox Senior VP of Marketing, Michael Camaro, who sat down with the cast. I hear so much about this already.
The whole group told me all about bringing this mysterious story to life.
For people not familiar with the book, how would you describe the story?
It's like a weird sort of folk tale or weird sort of spooky children's bedtime story. You know, that's what I really, really loved about it.
It's the story of a teenager who has trouble fitting in. He embarks on this epic journey and he kind of discovers this mysterious place where you have like kind of peculiar children. There he will learn how to embrace his own peculiarities and he will find himself.
It's a very visual adventure. What Tim's so good at doing is weaving in these kind of slightly creepy and mysterious elements.
Miss Peregrine is such kind of an unusual character, and I know Tim Burton calls her Scary Poppins. You know, it's a character who has rules, can be quite tough, but it's all for the love of her children. Promise me one thing. Look after them, Jake.
I promise. If you could have a peculiar power,
well, invisibility is always a good one. But I guess the character that I most would identify was the Enoch character, who kind of making weird inanimate objects come to life. And that's something that intrigues me.
Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children opens up nationwide this Friday.
So good.
So good. Probably one of Tim Burton's best movies in a very long time.
Also, you have the best job ever. I know I've told you that before, but you do.
It's a good gig. I can't complain.
One of our producers read the book, and she said, I didn't realize it was a children's book until after. So this is something that's fun for adults and children.
Yeah, it's like Mary Poppins with Edge.
I like that.
Be sure to check out FoxNewsMagazine.com for more of my celebrity interviews, and follow me on Twitter and Instagram at FoxLightMichael. Oh, there's that.
Love it.
Picture.
Awesome. Good to see you, Michael.
Good to see you.
Thanks so much. All right, the time is now almost 5 minutes to the top of the hour. When animals attack, what happens to a driver after they hit a deer? The video you need to see again. And the moment was perfect until this proposal literally swept a woman off of her feet. Is that a yes? You're going to have to stick around to find out.
You can tell that fall is on the way. The sun has not come up yet here in New York City. You're watching Fox and Friends First, and we always appreciate it. It is now about 3 minutes until the top of the hour. And before you leave the house, here's what's happening for you today. An accused serial killer set to face a judge, Sean Grates, is charged with killing 2 women in Ashland, Ohio, but is linked to at least 2 other murders in the state. Police fear that there may be even more victims. They were tipped off when an abducted woman managed to call police on his cell phone while he slept. and thousands paying their final respects to former Israeli President and Prime Minister Shimon Peres as his body lies in state in Jerusalem. President Obama, President Clinton, and Secretary of State John Kerry all visiting Jerusalem today. And here's some great news as you head to work this morning. Coffee shops around the country giving out freebies in celebration of National Coffee Day. To find out how to cash in, just head to foxnews.com.
And Krispy Kreme, a free donut, too. Time now for the good, the bad, and the ugly. First for the good. Watch this adorable moment of Mother Koala helps her Joey stuck on a fence in Australia, relieved to have his mom. The Joey clings to her fur before scrambling to her back. And talk about head over heels. Off script. Now it's going viral. This woman faints right after her boyfriend pops the question in Mexico. Not because she turned it down, but because she was so happy. When she woke up, she did say yes, and she is doing just fine now. And finally, the ugly. This incredible dash cam video shows a deer attacking a driver. Moments after the driver hit it, you can see the deer lunging into the woman's SUV in New Jersey. The driver struggling with the buck before kicking it out of the car. Good for her. I mean, could you even imagine? You open the door, you think you hit the deer, and it starts climbing in your seat?
Either he was hit really hard and so he was confused, or he was really mad that he almost got hit.
You know, you got to watch that over and over and over again. Yeah. And you're still shocked that it happened. Crazy.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Fox and Friends starts right now.
Bye.